This video was inspired by GamerGuy-D7Aces with his video titled What If Sonic 06 Was Good? I'm just basically going to give my own take on this theory, basically explain to you all what I think would have happened if Sonic 06 had been good myself. So without further ado, here are my top 10 things that would have happened if Sonic 06 had been good. So to start the video out, let's just look over the background of Sonic 06, what happened during the development, and basically why it was so bad. For those of you who don't know, Sonic 06 was basically Sega's attempt to revive Sonic. You know, we had all these great Sonic games, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes, and then we have this game, Shadow the Hedgehog, which wanted to kind of give a whole different take on Sonic. It was just a very different Sonic game, and it wasn't really what people wanted. It got terrible ratings, and so Sega wanted to basically revive Sonic in 2005, make Sonic great again, pretty much. So they start development on this game that was just going to be called Sonic the Hedgehog, because this game was supposed to basically be the next generation of Sonic. It's going to be completely different from the original series, and basically it was supposed to be the best Sonic game ever made, and it totally backfired because the original creator of Sonic, who had worked on every game, the classic games, the Dreamcast games, Sonic Heroes, left Sonic Team to go work on his own startup company, and he took along with him a lot of the members of Sonic Team. And not only that, but at the time they were trying to find a way to implement the motion controls on Sonic 06 to the Nintendo Wii, which had just been released in 2005. So they had to break down the team even more. And so the end result, with this really small Sonic team, and Sega wanting them to release the game by the holiday season of 2006 to coincide with the 15th anniversary title, was not very pretty. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not going to go too far into detail about what was wrong with the game. Instead, I'm just gonna leave a link in the description for you to check out Clement J642's 6-hour review of the game. He doesn't leave any stone unturned. He just completely exposes the game for what it is. Not only is the story terrible, but like there are so many glitches and bugs and graphical errors. I can't even explain them all in this one video. But what we are going to talk about in this video, I think it would be fun to discuss exactly how Sonic 06 could have been good, you know, before we get to the top 10 things that would have happened afterwards. So, how do I think Sonic 06 could have been good? Well, to begin with, I think Yuji Naka would never have left Sonic Team. Yuji Naka was pretty much the brains behind every magnificent Sonic game ever since 1991. You know, a lot of people even say he was the creator of Sonic, but besides that, even if Sonic Team hasn't been the greatest at storytelling, Yuji Naka was a great writer compared to Takashi Iizuka. Iizuka really just sucks as a writer, in my opinion. I think Yuji Naka would have stayed on the team along with the rest of the developers, and I think they would have just kept Sonic to the PS3 and Xbox 360. And now on to the story. Sonic 06 had a lot of redeemable qualities in its story. Yuji Naka actually was the inspiration for much of the plot in Sonic 06, but having left early, he didn't exactly write all of it. He just kind of had the basic outline of it. You know, there's the future's gonna be destroyed, Silver has to save the future and stuff, and Sonic rescues the princess from Eggman, something like that. I found a lot of redeemable qualities in the story, and we've certainly seen a lot of that in the E3 trailers and stuff. Actually, I did try once writing a Sonic the Hedgehog fanfiction, where I basically took everything redeemable about Sonic 06's story, and I tried to make it better, but I kind of gave up halfway through it because I found out that There were literally hundreds of Sonic fans who have already tried this. If this video gets 100 likes, I'll actually upload my Sonic the Hedgehog fanfiction for you guys to hear. You guys just let me know if you guys want to hear what I have to say about Sonic 06, how I would have made it better. Just let me know in the comments. And on to the gameplay. The gameplay in Sonic 06 was very lacking. People complain that Sonic wasn't fast enough, or it wasn't that he wasn't fast enough exactly. It's just that they didn't really balance out speed with control very well. You know, you play games like Sonic Unleashed, and there's tons of speed in it, but you don't have very much control over where Sonic goes. You know, if you press the left or right on the analog stick, Sonic will slightly veer to the left or slightly veer to the right. You don't really have a whole lot of control in that game. And then you play games like Sonic Labyrinth. Yeah, I know, I'm bringing up Sonic Labyrinth in a Sonic 06 video. Sonic is very slow in that game, but you have a lot of control over him. So the problem with Sonic 06 was Sonic went fast, but it didn't really balance out with the control a whole lot well. You would just press left or right on the analog stick when you're playing Sonic 06, and Sonic immediately rushes to the left or rushes to the right. It doesn't really... It just feels awkward, is what I'm trying to say. And with the physics were atrocious. You use the homing attack and you just drop like a rock. That's so annoying. And one of the problems with Sonic 06 was in the development they had to create a whole new engine, just like they did with Sonic Forces. And we all know how Sonic Forces turned out. Same basic thing happened with Sonic 06. They tried recreating an engine that didn't really need to be recreated, and it just turned out to be horrible. What I think they should have done was just stuck with the same engine that they used in Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2, because that was a great engine. It balanced out speed and control very well, and you didn't drop like a rock every time you used the homing attack. And also, Sonic wasn't the only character who was fast. You know, you could still run loop-de-loops as Knuckles, or Tails, or Rouge the Bat, or whatever. That's a problem with Sonic 06. Sonic and Blaze, and arguably E123 Omega, are the only fast characters in the game, which really kind of bugs me. I kind of wish that with Silver, instead of just walking around like he usually does, or jogging, whatever you want to call it, I think it would have been cool if they made it so that, excuse me, when you're playing as Silver, his starting speed was like a walk or a jog, but when you reached your top speed, he would start hovering over the ground, like sort of like he does in Smash Bros. Brawl in the background. I would have changed that. Also, I would have included a lot more melee moves with Tails and Rouge the Bat. Like, if you've played the game, you know that Tails used these things called dummy ring bombs, which were really dumb. They've never appeared in any Sonic games before, to my knowledge. I would have gone with a skill set more similar to that in the Sonic Advance series. If you played Sonic Advance on the Game Boy, Tails and Rouge actually had melee moves. Like, they could attack with Tails, for instance. He attacked with his actual tails. Like, if you go up to an enemy, you could whack him with your tails or something like that. I don't know. Actually, was Rouge in Sonic Advance? I don't think she was. But we all know that Rouge is like a martial artist. So I think it would have been a lot cooler if Rouge could actually attack enemies with her hands and feet. That's something that I would have changed. Knuckles, same thing. I would have made his attacks more like what was in the previous games. Amy's hammer, of course, was way too slow in Sonic 06, which was so dumb. I don't know why they slowed down her hammer speed so much. And, well, Amy was pretty much slow in general. And I think the whole turning invisible thing was just a really stupid move. Amy's never had that ability before, to my knowledge. Once again, use the same skills that were used in, like, Sonic Advanced and stuff. As for Shadow, I think he would have been a lot better if he had just been a clone of Sonic, like he has been in the past. Like, in Sonic Adventure 2, he basically played exactly the same as Sonic because he was pretty much just a dark, evil version of Sonic. There wasn't a whole lot that had to be different about him. Honestly, I would have rather they brought in the whole gun mechanic back from Shadow the Hedgehog, which nobody really liked to begin with, instead of doing this stupid homing attack where he would, like, lock onto an enemy and start just karate chopping and kicking them to death. It was really dumb. I think the enemies should have just had no health bars at all, so you could just homing attack into them and they would just die. And once again, same problem with Amy and all the other characters. Shadow was way too slow in that game. He should have been a lot faster, like as fast as Sonic. And with the vehicles, I don't know. I feel like the vehicles didn't have to be scrapped altogether. They might have been good if they were, like, more akin to GTA or something, like the vehicles in GTA where you could just hop on a motorcycle and just speed through the city and stuff. I think Shadow's vehicle gameplay could have been a lot better if it had taken more inspiration from a GTA game, but that's just me. Just to be safe, I just wouldn't have put vehicles in the game at all. The Mach Speed sections could have been good if they controlled a lot better. Maybe the Mach Speed sections wouldn't have been so bad if Sonic Team had done something where they were more like the boost mechanic in Sonic Unleashed or Sonic Generations, where instead of, like, having Sonic running automatically, the player felt more like they were in control, so they could, like, hold down the boost button, so they could just go speeding after the egg carrier. I mean, I'm thinking about Wave Ocean right now. I don't know exactly how it would work in Crisis City, but I think the boost mechanic would have been a great alternative to the Mach Speed sections. As the player, you're looking up at the egg carrier, and it's flying away from you at sonic speed, and you're like, oh crap, I need to catch up to the egg carrier. So when the player is seeing the egg carrier flying away, they could just, like, they'll feel inclined to hold down on the boost button and collect as many rings and kill as many enemies as possible, so they can fill up their boost meter even more. Of course, if you've played Sonic 06, you know that the whole boost gauge, well, not really the boost gauge, but the energy meter, when you're playing as Sonic, it doesn't go down, because they forgot to code that part in the game. If they had coded it in, and they made it more like a boost gauge, where you could run after Eggman and his egg carrier while you're Sonic on the ground, it would have been a lot funner, because you would actually feel like you're in control. And also, when you jump, you wouldn't have to just keep going in the same direction like you do in Sonic 06. You could, like, still steer when you're in midair. You wouldn't have to avoid enemies. You would just be able to boost right into them. I think that would have been a lot more fun, and it would have been a great alternative to the Mach Speed sections. Now, I personally like the hub worlds in Sonic games, but the ones in Sonic 06 were just way too big, and I think that's the biggest turnoff about them. If they had been a lot smaller like they had been in Sonic Adventure, they would have been a lot more fun to play in. And to be honest, the human characters in Sonic 06, I don't really have a problem with them, but the problem that I have is that Sonic is just so disproportionate to them that it just doesn't look right in any of the cutscenes or anything like that. You know, Sonic has a head the size as, like, most of their bodies. Most of the NPCs could pretty much fit their head right into Sonic's eye socket. But if you look at a TV show like Sonic X, Sonic was a lot more proportionate to the humans in that show. Like, if you look at Sonic's head next to Chris's head, they're basically the same size. But the problem where Sonic 06 goes wrong is when Sonic is next to the humans in that game, it just looks creepy. I know I'm repeating a whole lot from Clement's review, but, you know, he makes some great points. I think it would have been a lot better if Sonic's proportions had been more similar to those of the humans. And I don't mean like making Sonic 6 feet tall and making his head super small compared to his body. I mean like making Sonic smaller in general. You know, I know they were trying to give him more of an adult-like model in this game. Don't get me wrong, I loved the Sonic model in 2006, but it just didn't mesh well. I think they could have altered it a bit more, maybe made Sonic a little bit shorter, shortened his spines a bit, just made him look less creepy next to the humans, you know? Beyond that, just make the levels feel a bit more like they have a bit more continuity with the story. You know, nobody really likes how you play through Wave Ocean and then you just go right back to the city. It doesn't really make sense. I would kind of like it if you would go through a level and you actually progress to a new level after that, because otherwise it just makes all the levels seem completely pointless. Then again, the story had a lot to do with that as well. You know, like, Sonic just goes through Wave Ocean, gets tired, and decides to run back to the city instead of continuing to pursue Eggman. That might be more of a plot issue than a gameplay issue, but I kind of like the gameplay if it felt more like you were accomplishing something, and you were actually getting one step closer to saving the princess. Because even when you do save the princess as Sonic, she still gets kidnapped again. It doesn't matter. It's basically, you're basically playing a Mario game at that point. So yeah, that's basically how I think Sonic 06 could have been better. Now on to my top 10 of things that would have happened if Sonic 06 had been this way. So let's get right into it. So, number 10 on the list is Yuji Naka would never have left Sonic Team. Yuji Naka has been, like, one of Sonic Team's most valuable assets in all of Sonic history. He was behind some of the greatest games ever made, and I think Sonic Team would be at a much better point if Yuji Naka had just never left. You know? So if Sonic 06 had been good, I don't think Yuji Naka would have left to create his own startup company. He would have been like, wow, people really like Sonic 06. And he wouldn't have left. He would have been continuing to make great Sonic games like Sonic 06. And with that, number 9 on the list is the Sonic Storybook series would have been cancelled. So, as I mentioned before, they tried to implement motion controls into Sonic 06 so it could work on the Nintendo Wii, and they failed with that. So instead, they created a whole separate title called Sonic and the Secret Rings, and we all know how that turned out. Sonic and the Secret Rings was a pretty bad game. It didn't do the series much good when it was released, especially since the last main series game had been such a train wreck. 2007 wasn't a very good year for Sonic in general. We only really got one good game that year, and it was for the Nintendo DS. I believe it was Sonic Rush Adventure, and the other two were Sonic Chronicles and Sonic and the Secret Rings. Wasn't a very good year for Sonic. And so if Sonic and the Secret Rings had never been released, and they just canceled it so the whole team could come together and work on Sonic 06, then the sequel to Sonic and the Secret Rings, Sonic and the Black Knight, would never have happened either. And with that, number 8 on the list is Sonic would have received a complete reboot. Now, like Sonic Boom, Sonic 06 was Sega's attempt to give the series a fresh start. We've had the same continuity from 1991 all the way to 2005, and Sega felt that it was time for Sonic to start something new. So they create this game, and they have a whole bunch of new origin stories for all of the characters. They have some new faces, some old faces. It was just supposed to be something completely new, completely separate to the original continuity, and it would have worked if Sonic 06 hadn't been a complete disaster. Now, in Sonic 06, there were a whole bunch of confusing things about the story, like, why did the Princess of Soliana have the same Chaos Emeralds for 10 years? If she had the same Chaos Emeralds for 10 years, then Sonic couldn't have gotten all of the Chaos Emeralds in Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Heroes and stuff. And also, Knuckles the Echidna. He was living in Soliana when he should have been on Angel Island guarding the Master Emerald. Shadow was working for Gun when he should be hating them since they killed his best friend and stuff. The thing is about that was Sonic 06 was supposed to reboot the series. All of these characters had completely new backstories in Sonic 06, and this would have worked out if Sonic 06 had actually been good. And I really would have liked to have seen where that would have turned out. I guarantee it would have been a whole lot better than Sonic Boom. And number 7 on the list is, I think Archie Publications would have requested Sega to do a Sonic 06 comic adaptation. They had tried to do this with Shadow the Hedgehog before, but Sega never really approved of doing that, so they never got around to it. But I think the reason why they didn't give them the green light to do Shadow the Hedgehog adaptation was just because that game was very poorly received by the fans. So Sega probably didn't want Archie to advertise this game that was one of their worst games ever made. And so, of course, with Sonic 06, they never let them do that either, because Sonic 06 was even more poorly received. So, if Sonic 06 had actually been good, then Archie probably would have asked Sega right away if they could do an 06 adaptation, and I think they would have been allowed to, because this is like one of their best games ever made, remember? So, of course, they would want their game to be advertised as much as possible. So, how this Archie adaptation would have turned out, I think it would have started probably around issue 192 or something like that. I think that would probably fit up with the story most well. And I think it might have actually been like the story in the Archie version of the Sonic 06 game probably would have been even better. It would have had even more characters to work with. And I just really would have liked to have seen Archie do an adaptation of Sonic 06. And number 6 on the list is Sonic X would have received a 4th season. Now, believe what you want, but I honestly think that we could have seen a 4th season of Sonic X if Sonic 06 had been good. And the reason why I say that is, after a game this big, Sega needs a lot more advertising for their series, and they have a much bigger budget to advertise their series now. So I think they would have said to TMS Entertainment, definitely, give us a 4th season of Sonic X. We need to advertise this franchise a lot more. And so I think that by November or December of 2007, we could have seen a 4th season. I mean, it would only make sense. Series 1 of Sonic X had 2 seasons in it, about 52 episodes. And then the second series was only 1 series long, and it only had, like, I don't know, 25, 26 episodes in it. I think Sonic X really needed a 4th season. How do I think this season would have turned out? Well, I think the 4th season would almost have certainly been an adaptation of Sonic Heroes. And I really would have liked to have seen how that had turned out. Like, how would they introduce Chocola the Chow? I would have liked to seen an introduction of E123 Omega. You know, that all would have been cool. A good time frame, I think, would be for Sonic X Season 4. The first episode I would expect by, like, mid-November of 2007. And probably have the last episode by July or August of 2008. You know, just give the writers and animators about a year of off time between the 3rd and the 4th season. You know, that's kind of what they did with the 1st and the 2nd series. Like, there was about a year and a half between the end of Season 2 and the start of Season 3. I think they would have done something more like that. And the Archie comics for Sonic X, those actually went on until December of 2008. So, who knows, maybe Season 4 would have gone a little bit longer, all the way to the end of 2008. I think that would have been cool. But yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys think a 4th season of Sonic X would have turned out. What do you think would have happened? And number 5 on the list, it sort of ties into my previous point. The 4Kids voice actors would not have been replaced. Now, if you look back to 2006, the fans were very polarized about the new voice cast. People were very upset that Ryan Drummond was not voicing Sonic like he had been since 1998, and so they were having all these campaigns against Jason Griffith. They thought he was the worst voice actor ever, and he shouldn't be the voice of Sonic and stuff. I mean, there were even some people, according to Jason Griffith, who were sending him death threats, which I think is pretty ridiculous. I think Jason Griffith and Dan Green and all the other 4Kids voice actors would have been stuck as Sonic's permanent voice actors in this new Sonic 06 continuity. If you look at Japan, they've always had the same voice actor for Sonic. It's always been the same person. Ever since Sonic Adventure and onwards, it's still the same person. And even if the English voice actors had been eventually replaced, I don't think it would have been in 2010. So, in 2009, do I think Jason Griffith would still be voicing Sonic? Yes. 2010, 11, 12, probably. He might still be the voice actor to this day if Sonic 06 had been great. You know, just to, you know, keep the same sort of persona with Sonic. If you look at the recent games, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of continuity anymore. I mean, can you really imagine Sonic from Sonic Unleashed? This is the same person who's making all these stupid jokes in Sonic Colors. Hey, no copyright law in the universe is gonna stop me! You know, I just think they kind of would have wanted to have stuck with the same personality for Sonic. Oh no, you're gonna love this one. If Sonic 06 had been good, Sonic Adventure 3 would have happened. Yeah, I said it. Now, I know Sonic Adventure 3 is kind of controversial right now because, you know, Sonic Adventure was released in 98. Sonic Adventure 2 was released in like 2000 or 2001. We would have had a lot of time in between Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Adventure 3. And you know, there are still people to this day who are expecting a Sonic Adventure 3. But if Sonic 06 had been good, then that would have shown that Sega can still do the adventure mechanics properly. And so I think people would want a Sonic Adventure 3 more than ever if Sonic 06 had been good. If you look at Sonic 06, they were pretty much already a Sonic Adventure 3. They had all the same mechanics, all the same characters and stuff, all the same environments. I think Sonic Adventure 3 would have been more demanded of the fans than ever if Sonic 06 had been good. And I'm still secretly hoping to this day that Sega will eventually make a Sonic Adventure 3. But I think it's extremely unlikely as long as Takashi Iizuka is the executive producer of the Sonic games, since he doesn't want anything to do with the adventure mechanics anymore. He just kind of wants to leave them behind in the past and stuff. But, with Yuji Naka still as the executive producer, we probably would see more games with adventure mechanics. We probably would have seen a Sonic Adventure 3 by now. And number 3, pretty much no Sonic game that we've seen since Sonic 06 would have happened. Now, I know there have been plenty of great Sonic games in the past 12 years. I'm not denying that at all, by any stretch of the means. But I think it's extremely unlikely that Sega would have used the boost mechanic after Sonic 06 if it had actually been good. If Sonic 06 had been a great game, then we wouldn't have needed to see a new game mechanic like the boost or the giant rings or anything like that. There would be no Sonic Unleashed, no Sonic Colors, no Sonic Generations. It would just pretty much be the same formula over and over again. And I think that's something that the Sonic fans would really like. Sonic doesn't really have a definite identity anymore. It's like, some games it'll be boosting, some games it'll be like gravity physics, some games it'll just be completely 2D. Nobody really likes that. I think we would have seen some uniformity with all of the Sonic games, sort of like how we see with Super Mario games. It's all pretty much, either kart racing or 2D platforming or 3D platforming. I think it would have been pretty much the same thing with Sonic. It would all pretty much just be super fast 3D platforming with every game and less experimental stuff. And we wouldn't have seen the mobile games either because those are just trash. And number 2 on the list is Sonic would have been a lot more story-oriented by now, and we probably would have seen a Sonic the Hedgehog movie by now. Now, like I said before, Sega has never really been that great with the storytelling, and that's mainly because it's Sega of Japan that writes the Sonic the Hedgehog stories, and Sonic isn't really as popular in Japan as he is in the West. But if Sonic 06 had been good, a game that was very reliant on the story, we probably would have seen a lot more Sonic games now that were more story-heavy. Unlike games like Sonic Lost World and Sonic Generations, which had little to no story at all. It's just get from point A to point B, pretty much. We probably... Honestly, I think Sega of Japan might have handed the storytelling baton to Sega of Europe or Sega of America, and that would have been a lot better because I think they could probably write a much better Sonic the Hedgehog story. If you look at Sega of Europe, these are the same people who have given the green light to great comic book series like the Sonic Fleetway comics and the Archie comics, which were all very excellent. I mean, I'm kind of a fan of Archie more than Fleetway, but, I think the Sonic stories would have been a lot better by now, and we probably would have seen a movie. If you look at Sonic 06, it was very cinematic, with the CGI cutscenes and stuff. I think with Sega's greater budget, since they would probably have a lot better sales at this point, we probably already would have seen a Sonic the Hedgehog movie. I know we're supposed to get one in 2019, but I'm really not too excited for it. I'm not thinking it's going to be the best Sonic story ever made, but I'm really hoping it will be. But like I said, if Sonic 06 had been good, the Sonic movie would have happened by now, and it probably would have been awesome. And the number one thing that would have happened if Sonic 06 had been good would be Sonic would be a respectable franchise again and an actual rival to Mario. Now, the whole Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games thing, it's a complete joke. There's no Mario versus Sonic anymore. Mario won a long time ago. Mario is clearly superior to Sonic. His games have always sold consistently better. He has more fans. He has fans that can relate to him more. And Sonic, on the other hand, he's just a joke pretty much now. Sonic 06 was really the game that was going to make or break the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, and ultimately, it broke it. Sonic the Hedgehog isn't respected well anymore. You can't go up to somebody and say, "Hey, I'm a Sonic fan," and get the same reaction as if you were to say, "Hey, I'm a Mario fan." You know, Sonic just isn't what he used to be. He's not cool anymore. But if Sonic 06 had actually been good and actually lived up to its standards, there would be Sonic fans and Mario fans all over the place. Sega would probably be as big as Nintendo, and IGN probably wouldn't be completely biased against Sonic. So yeah, that's basically what I think would have happened if Sonic 06 had been good. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think would have happened if Sonic 06 had been good? Would Sonic be better now, or would he be worse? Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you all later.